It is sometimes easy to forget just how much of an accident it was that we are so used to seeing a zombies mode in our Call of Duty games. What a hilariously impossible idea would have been that we would be gunning down interdimensional undead in a series that previously focused so heavily upon the realism, the idealistic valor of the everyday soldier, and the very literal call to duty that ordinary men and women had to answer to. How funny would it be to go back in time and show little David OZ some of this footage? He wouldn't believe it's the same series. And the thing is, I'm not even complaining. COD as a franchise has undergone thematic makeover one after another. It has run the gamut of realism to absurdity, serious to self-referential. I have no doubt in my mind that Call of Duty's Zombies mode has been an absolutely positive addition to the Call of Duty formula. Incomprehensibly weird and occasionally frustrating, sure, but still positive. Most of us know the fiction behind the origins of the Undead mode. What was once an off-the-books creative outlet for hard-working developers at Treyarch later became a series staple that would inspire entire graduate degrees in studying its fiction. Zombies as a mode is a happy accident, a once-in-a-lifetime instance when a developer's wacky idea was actually listened to and actually implemented, at least as an end-of-campaign Easter egg. It was implemented not because of the fiction, the Easter eggs, or the characters. Zombies mode was implemented at the end of World at War's campaign because it is actually good. Zombies mode is addictive, well-designed, and unique. Call of Duty Zombies mode deserves its praises, and I am here to give them. At the risk of sounding like a crotchety old 20-something, we have been sort of accustomed to having a lot of things spelled out for us in our virtual worlds. Whether it's quest markers or dotted lines on a minimap, a lot of the crushing self-sufficiency of older games has been minimized. This has conditioned us to a degree, so when developers take the training wheels off, it can feel a bit jarring without waypoints or tooltips. Which is fine, by the way. Don't be the person who gatekeeps obscurity. An authored experience should choose the level of assistance it deems important to the experience. Borderlands may walk and talk you through each step because it deems the looting and shooting most important. And Dark Souls 3 may make getting to Archdragon Peak esoteric and difficult because it deems awareness and exploration most important. Neither of those are inherently wrong or bad design, but both look to serve a wider experience. So I ask you then, you elite group of gamers, where does Call of Duty fall in that spectrum of content accessibility? It's obviously the easier one, right? Because it would be easy to argue that Call of Duty is the antithesis of the Dark Souls side of things. Its campaign flows from one set piece to another, never asking much from the player in terms of their own problem solving. A by-design on-rails roller coaster. Its multiplayer has maybe the easiest barrier to entry of any competitive multiplayer game, with its rules and statistics easily understandable for most first-time players. Call of Duty is accessible. It's why it's successful. It's why it's such good entertainment junk food. It's why Call of Duty works. So why then is Call of Duty Zombies, of all things, one of the most esoteric, challenging, and complicated gaming experiences I've ever had? How does a series that strives to take the consequence-free and empty-headed joy of a Hollywood blockbuster manage to create gameplay that requires multiple hours of planning, YouTube videos, graphs, puzzles, and memorization? Why did I study harder for the Origins Easter egg quest than I did for 90% of my exams in school? For those of us that have been playing games for a long time, we all know what it is like to feel stuck. We've all had the thought, how in the world would someone know to do that? A cry to developers everywhere, asking for clear instructions on how to make this thing do that. That feeling is crucial to the design of a lot of your favorite Zombies maps, and they somehow make it work. You see, over the last month or so, I've kind of become obsessed with the Call of Duty Zombies mode. It's one of those things that I'm almost embarrassed to say in a video, like there's some sort of stigma associated with being a complete nerd about the absolutely anarchic storyline and designs of the mode. I was always a multiplayer guy. I bought every Call of Duty when they came out, would instantly load up the campaign, plow through that, and then play the multiplayer every single day. Rarely would I even touch the co-op mode. Why would I? Why would I play a joke Zombies mode when I could be going for diamond camo? Zombies was always the mode I played when I was at the depths of my boredom. I didn't dislike it, I thought it was fun. I just never got much past opening up the map and maybe pack-a-punching my weapon. To me, Zombies was an Easter egg in and of itself. A fun side activity that created some good laughs here and there, but nothing more. Which, and let me be clear for context throughout this entire retrospective, is truly the origins of the mode itself. It's a mythology that many of you already know, that COD Zombies was created in World at War as a fun little side activity the developers were working on. Its surprise start after completing the World at War campaign was shocking to say the least, but not so unbelievable or even out of place given the tonal and thematic consistency of the entire campaign up until that point. This idea that Zombies is such a core part of the COD experience, even in non-Treyarch games, is really a serendipitous result of clever co-op design. It's an accident. The spark that ultimately raged into an uncontrollable flame wasn't the story or the Easter eggs, it was a series of clever foundational design decisions that ultimately made for a uniquely replayable and addicting experience. Because the truth is, COD Zombies is a uniquely delicate and effective cooperative experience. Despite being created on the side, it has design principles and mechanics that are unique to the series, and can't be found in other similar PvE-type content. Yes, as stale and ubiquitous as some might say the series has become as a whole, I am willing to say it. COD Zombies mode has genuinely great design, interesting ideas, and unique mechanics. It isn't this lightning-in-a-bottle end-of-campaign Easter egg that they just decided to drive into the ground. The idea that Zombies mode is at all popular only because of its absurdity and unexpectedness is dismissive of the adept game design on display. COD Zombies is genuinely good, and I want to talk about why. My name is David OZ. You can find me in all the usual YouTuber places, Twitch streams, Twitter, and most importantly, this video was helped in due part to my friends on Patreon. Thank you Logcom, Jacob, Zach, and Christopher. You too can and should give me loads of money on Patreon. These videos are tough to make. Alright, let's do it. I've come to the conclusion that there are a number of ways that you can interpret Call of Duty Zombies. It is a particularly difficult game mode to write about because of how radically different the Zombies experience is depending on your commitment to the mode to begin with. Watching an experienced Zombies player with mastery of a map is honestly hilariously different from watching, well, me. There are high round players, Easter egg players, casual players, people who know everything about apothecans and ether and doctors and shadowmen, and then there are people who laugh when the zombies get flung by the thunder gun. There are levels to the Zombies experience, to the community. Even writing for a specific audience is impossible. Maybe you are that person, the person who will write a paragraph in my comments explaining the differences between the Ultimate and Primus crew. Maybe you have no clue what I just said, and the last Zombies map you played was Transit. One thing for sure is, I can't summarize. The amount of content being covered in this video is extraordinary, and to try and understand Zombies in completion is impossible. And frankly, as we will discuss later on, kind of missing the point of the intended experience. Now, here I am mainly covering the Treyarch Zombies games, and generally when I talk about COD Zombies as a series, I really mean the design philosophies and rhythms of a Treyarch game. That being said, I will be talking some about the Zombies modes in the 3 other games, Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, and World War II. Finally, I should mention that I completed every map's Easter egg that I could, but some of them are hard and take multiple players that I couldn't get access to. While I played each of these maps multiple times, in order to still be able to experience the process of getting through the quests, I had to get creative. I used a Black Ops 1 quality of life mod that allowed the game to be a bit easier, and crucially for me to be able to do the Easter eggs solo. I occasionally would use mods for Black Ops 3 that would allow me to do things solo as well as just straight up using God mode when I couldn't complete some of the harder ones, like Gorod Krovi. Oh my gosh, that map is hard. This isn't my normal kind of video. This is a video split into 2 parts. First is my wider understanding and analysis of the game mode of zombies in particular, like you've been hearing so far. And second is a map-by-map look at how each experience compares to each other, and my reviews of them particularly. And it should also be noted that last year I played through every single Call of Duty game. Multiplayer, campaign, co-op, everything. It took hundreds of hours of my life and culminated in a 3.5-hour long YouTube video. And during my odyssey through Activision's Cash Factory, I noticed just how awful I was at the Zombies mode. Campaign is easy enough. I have a lot of those basically memorized by now. Spec Ops is one of my favorite Call of Duty experiences to date. Multiplayer is my true calling. Back in my gaming prime, I felt like a literal harbinger of death on maps like Crossfire in COD 4 or Standoff in Black Ops 2. But in Zombies, it was like I was trying out a new franchise for the first time, despite playing COD games for almost 2 decades now. My confidence quickly falters, terror sets in, not of the zombies themselves, but of the looming realization that, wait, maybe, just maybe, I suck at COD again. Sure, the mechanics are there, same aim down sights, same movement, but that's about where the comparisons end. Zombies tests you as much on mechanics as it does knowledge and awareness, and the mechanics that it does test you on have more to do with movement rather than strict gunplay. Strafe jumping and sliding in between the slightest windows reminds me less of a super soldier like in multiplayer, and more like an NFL running back, cutting between tacklers and looking for just enough space to breathe. Zombies, when you're in control, makes you feel like an orchestrator of death, like you are a cattle rancher of 20 years and the zombies are your livestock. Zombies, when you lose control, can be as stressful a gaming experience I've had. More often, however, it is a 2 or 3 second window of profanity that is over in an instant. You can do everything right for 45 minutes, make one mistake in your pathing, and your game is over in 5 seconds. Zombies is a cruel, cruel game mode, and that's what makes it addicting. Each game navigates the mode similarly, but much like Call of Duty games as a whole, the Zombies modes are really only similar from a base foundational perspective. Foundationally, many mechanics stay the same throughout the series, but the priorities and rhythms of a match of zombies varies tremendously from game to game. World at War focuses heavily on tonal objectives, establishing a horror-fueled artistic vision for the series that matches the subject material of the original game. Black Ops 1 digs deep into a nostalgic sci-fi aesthetic, with gameplay that chooses to put obstacles in the path of the player as opposed to empowerment. Black Ops 2 is a roller coaster of quality, packing in some of the best maps the franchise has to offer right next to some of the worst. Exo Zombies started strong but quickly devolved into the least interesting content offering in the series. Black Ops 3 manages to take zombies to production value heights unseen before, all the while making a convincing case for one of the best content offerings in the franchise's history. Infinite Warfare picked and chose core foundational elements of the Treyarch formula and substantiated it with its own thematic inspirations for what makes a really good game. World War II Zombies saw a zombies era once came and went, and Black Ops 4 saw a zombies era no one really wanted. I did play through Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War Zombie Mode, a game title, by the way, I still find absolutely hilarious, but it's hard for me to place it in a wider context of the series right now with such limited experience and time for it to sit. I think it's neat, I guess. One of the most interesting parts of covering zombies, and one of the reasons I wanted to write about it in the first place, is how Treyarch essentially created hundreds of jobs for people in the zombies community. Treyarch is, with no uncertain terms, responsible for many internet people's careers. YouTubers, guide makers, streamers, you name it. The necessary collaborative element of the game mode allowed for giant personalities to emerge as huge YouTubers. This necessary collaboration is one of the unique elements of COD Zombies as a series, and it helps contribute to its mystique and culture. An unspoken consequence of this seemingly good element of Zombies, though, is how it contributes to a commonly monolithic and ubiquitous way of talking about the series critically. Transit is bad. World War II Zombies just isn't very good. Infinite Warfare doesn't have the X factor of Treyarch zombies despite being well designed. Opinions more quickly turn to unassailable facts in COD Zombies discussions because of how much of the conversation happens on the internet amongst a select few huge voices. Obviously, ubiquity of opinion happens in every franchise fanbase, but it is especially worrisome for Zombies based on just how much of the conversation happens in the same places online. It's why, and I hope this acts as an endorsement of this video and not detraction, I think I have a unique opportunity to critically speak on this mode as someone who is essentially experiencing it all at once in 2021. So what makes COD Zombies worth noting for me? Why does it get a standalone video amongst the already 3.5 hour monstrosity that I uploaded last year? It has to be because of 3 different reasons. Because of its willingness to be wacky, a propensity toward risk-taking, and an honestly breathtaking cultural impact that many people my age can instantly attest to. Let's start with the first one, because in a lot of ways COD Zombies mode stands in contrast to the self-serious schlock that characterizes the campaigns, or the strictly competitive utilitarianism of COD's multiplayer. Zombies, at least for a while, didn't concern itself too much with perfection. The maps were often obvious in their experimentation, as if you could see the developers laughing to themselves as they layered in mechanics after mechanics that ultimately became series staples. You can see this most clearly in the first couple of Zombies maps, as they evolve upon Nuketown Toten's design in Verruckt with percacolas and traps, and then continue to add in wacky design decisions in subsequent maps, like the completely unbalanced Wonder Weapon in Shinonuma, or the series staple Pack-a-Punch in Dariz. Balance has never been a priority for the series, as Zombies has a pretty clear meritocracy in how it wants the games to go. If you know what you are doing, the game is going to be easier. If you know what doors to open in what path, which perks to prioritize, and which wall guns are worthless, then you will always end up having more points and more resources for zombie killing. It's in the desperation and the unknown moments of decision making that Zombies becomes so difficult. Good Zombies players can basically make a mockery of the mode by weaving in and out of danger with incredible proficiency. There's a whole community of high-round players that regularly get to the triple digits of rounds, taking advantage of mechanics and imbalances in the game. COD Zombies is not a balanced game. The Wonder Weapons really make this clear. To me, a balanced Wonder Weapon is a wasted Wonder Weapon. When I say I want to be able to turn zombies into smaller, infantile zombies and then kick them all in a row, I want that. I don't want a balanced version of that. And while I do think the future COD Zombies maps do excel in many ways, the early games carry a genuinely lovable aspect to the mode in its early stages, and how you can easily see the developers having fun and taking risks with the content. There is a metatextual element to World at War and Black Ops 1 that basically tells the player, hey, the developers are having fun here too. Try not to take this too seriously. And the funny thing about this is it represents a sort of microcosm of the macrocosm that is COD Zombies. This is to say that the mode itself is exactly that. A fun chance for the developers to flex their creative muscles without fear of interfering with an established mode like campaign or multiplayer. The mode started as a fun side project, and that design ethos flows through the mode's veins for years and years. It's why so often you will hear such dripping nostalgia for the old days of COD Zombies, the days where the mode wasn't one of the big 3 of COD modes, where it wasn't as established, where it felt like a secret, like it was something that just shouldn't work as well as it does. The mode was an outcast, an Easter egg, a design with the player's fun in mind and nothing else. Its heart is what it is. If you've ever wondered why exactly people just can't connect with the future Zombies modes in the same way, or the non-Treyarch Zombies games, it's exactly for this reason. If you played Zombies from 2008 to 2011, you knew that each new game, each new map, was a complete mystery box in and of itself. You had no idea what you were going to get, but you knew it would have the potential to be special. There was an unexpectedness to Treyarch's design, a trust that whether or not an idea would work, they were darn well going to at least try. I don't know, that's pretty cool, especially for COD. And the cherry on top of Treyarch's mechanical craziness is simply that Well, most of the mechanics are actually good. Most of them stuck. It's so unbelievable to me, honestly, so cool that Treyarch introduced perk machines in Verruckt that pretty much stayed the same exact price throughout 3 more iterations of Zombies games. The perk machines themselves were enough of a creative triumph, but to just nail the correct economical impact on the player on their first go is just so awesome to me. There was real artistry here, real talent in the development. When I think of COD Zombies in totality and its impact on myself and the franchise going forward, it's this. Treyarch's, and let's be real, probably blind, confidence in their design decisions for this mode is its greatest triumph. There is genuine, adept game design here, and a prophetic approach to co-op design that they somehow got right again and again on their first attempts. They were not immune to failures, but they were lessons that oftentimes informed the rest of the series going forward in a productive way. Lessons were learned, ideas were formed, and the maps, with few exceptions of course, tend to improve upon each iteration, signaling a willingness to grow alongside the player. I think this is especially the case when you look at how the point system has remained relatively unchanged throughout the history of the games, even when you look at Exo Zombies, Infinite Warfare, or World War II Zombies. Points, the currency in Zombies, acts as a constant drip feed that essentially informs all of the mechanical progression of the game throughout. Many of you watching this will have memories of attempting to get every point available from every zombie in those early rounds. 8 shots to the leg, then knife. My most memorable time doing this came in the map Origins, when I was doing run after run after run for the Easter egg. I could do the beginning of the map blindfolded, trying to leech every point possible from the undead as I try and manage staff parts, soul boxes, and challenges. Point management is a huge skill gap in Zombies gameplay, and is instrumental in the addictive nature of the mode. Every single time a player dies, there is an understanding, implicit or explicit, that if they just got off to a better start, the map would have snowballed in their favor more. So, we try again. And again. Unless it's Origins, when I die on the last step of about 2.5 hours worth of an Easter egg attempt. In that case, I stop playing Zombies for about a week because the thought nauseates me. So the Zombies mode, especially early on, works because of its wacky yet effective game design, how it's risk-taking yet relatively consistent, and how it's designed with player fun as a priority. I mentioned one other reason, however, and that is its importance to so many people's formative gaming years. Call of Duty Zombies was incredibly culturally significant, at least as far as gaming culture goes. COD Zombies memes and stories are still flooding unrelated online conversations because, for most everyone, Zombies was a ubiquitously shared experience. Much like the multiplayer of something like Modern Warfare 2, a good SpongeBob reference, or a quote from The Office, you can basically guarantee that anyone within the age of 21 to 35 has had some sort of experience with COD Zombies. It is a uniting force that gives the series so much credibility and allure. There are so many emotions and nostalgic feelings wrapped up in a discussion about COD Zombies, about being so scared to launch a game of Verruckt at night alone, about dolphin diving down the stairs in Kino der Toten and dying, about making it to round 20 and thinking, well, I had just accomplished something impossible, about some friend saying his friend told him that if you knife every mannequin on Nuketown Zombies, it does something, about the ludicrous things you would hear about the secrets on each map, about how you will definitely get the ray gun if you knife the box and spin around 3 times. I remember that feeling of moral superiority you would get when you would open up the door for your friend, but you knew that the next door was more expensive, you manipulative bastard. A discussion of Zombies is a discussion wrapped full of subjective experiences, of crawlers, of demanding revives because you have the ray gun. It's of meticulous planning for an Easter egg. I can't personally look at the series in its totality and divorce it from my own experience, and I wouldn't expect you to either. COD Zombies is an almost 15-year odyssey, and everyone got on or off the bus at different times. All you have to do to realize just how much of a monstrosity the Call of Duty Zombies mode ended up becoming is to take a look at the footage from World at War and then immediately look at gameplay from the Black Ops 3 map Revelations. In that comparison lives a decade of absolute madness, of universe-bending, time-traveling, genre-merging madness. No one, and I mean no one, could have ever expected the sort of chaos that would become of the Zombies fiction. A fiction, by the way, that many have tried and failed to properly understand and map out in their heads. I will not be doing that today. No, if you are looking for the COD Zombies story explained YouTube video, this will leave you unsatisfied. An attempt was made, I won't lie. I watched multiple videos, I read the wiki. I wanted to know the difference between the Richtoffens, how they came to be and how they came to interact. What I do know, however, is that the Zombies storyline can exist both to service the plot in a utilitarian way, but also it can exist to cultivate an experience in the same way that we mentioned the Easter egg quests can. The macro of the fiction of the universe and the micro of the stories told in each map cultivate each other hand in hand to create a world and a set of characters that tend to be as confused as you are at any given moment. The developers are very aware of their self-created confusion, just how complicated it really is. And oftentimes you'll see them play this up by having the characters ask, "Why are we doing this again, Richtofen?" You see, that's why the nonsensical story kinda works, at least for me. For the majority of the stories being told in these maps, only one of the characters truly knows what's really going on, whereas the others tend to float alongside, following. Richtofen and later Samuel Stuhlinger both exist as avatars for the more committed Zombies player. They are, in a way, opportunities for the characters to take on roles that the players do as well. Most Zombies players do not know how to complete Easter eggs or what the implications of the MPD are. Most groups of Zombies players would have maybe one person who acts as a sort of leader or guide for completing the quests. Someone has to have the YouTube guide up, but someone has to corral the crawler as well. It's basic Zombies mode practice, and the developers have uniquely systemized this hierarchy in the characters themselves. Each non-Richtofen character can be characterized by service to something or someone. Tank Dempsey is a soldier, a follower of orders, and seeing him come to grips with this as he is given more agency in the future games is a genuinely interesting mixing of storytelling and gameplay. Takio and Nikolai exist as stereotypically committed to their country's ideologies, as followers of a higher purpose. Only Richtofen seems trailblazing in terms of having his own strict motivations and goals. Basically what I'm saying is 75% of the party in the Zombies fiction has no clue what is going on, and most likely 75% of the Xbox Live party, or whatever it may be, probably has no clue what is going on simultaneously. I think that's kind of neat, and it pairs well with the ultimate experiential goals of Zombies as a saga. One of the things that helps me when I play games that have these overly complicated stories is that I try to find common thematic ground amongst all of the narrative baggage. For example, Kingdom Hearts began to lose me plot-wise probably midway through the second game, but when I choose to just enjoy the game through its more affective elements, its feelings on friendship and relationships, I can still enjoy the story being told based on experience rather than strict plot understanding. I loved Nier Automata, despite not having the background of the previous title's contextualization, because I was able to just view it through the lens of existentialism and 2B and 9S's grapple with understanding each other's place in the world. I didn't need to know about Xenahort or the Red-Headed Twins or Yorha, because I at least grasped the experience the characters were having, and that was enough for me. Zombies does this through its obliqueness. By understanding and acknowledging how confusing it is, it can create interesting emotionally affective moments in spite of its chaos. For example, the story of Zombies does inspire some introspective thought about identity. What makes a person a person? Is it themselves inherently or their experiences? Yada yada. Hey, could multiple versions of myself be completely different people? This is why it is sad that Primus Richtofen dies and not Ultimus Richtofen. These are not the same people, despite being, well, the same person. I can understand these moments despite not, well, understanding them. It is possible, and even in the case of Zombies, preferable, to not understand every plot element and still cultivate an emotionally evocative experience. The material is there to get a good understanding, but to just play the maps normally would be to inhabit the very intentional experience of most of the zombie-killing party members in these games. It's why you will rarely see me nitpick stories on this channel, especially in regards to something like this. I am sure that there are a number of plot inconsistencies and contrivances that exist artificially within the fiction, but these things don't concern me when compared to the holistic experience of 4 unexpected people against impossible odds. I don't know, maybe I'm just easy to impress, but I do know that by the time Black Ops 3 rolled around and I was playing for hours, studying an Easter egg just so Tank Dempsey could kill his alternate dimension self or something, I knew some part of me was invested in the stories of these characters, regardless if I fully understood them. I've never really structured my content this way, but I want to look at each map in Call of Duty Zombies. This includes the maps found in Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, World War II, and what maps have come out in Black Ops Cold War. Some maps obviously warrant more discussion than others, but to structure and facilitate discussion about these maps, I'm going to go somewhere that no other YouTuber has ever gone. I'm going to make a tier list. Yes, look, I'm not happy about it either, but I've kind of always wanted to do this, and it seems like a good opportunity. So as we go through this video, I'm going to place each map into this tier list I found, and then you can yell at me for it. Got it? Some of these maps I'm going to blow through and give my rating, and some of them I will substantiate or use as examples for some wider analysis of zombies as a whole. After writing this whole section, it is clear that this is a time for opinionated ranking, not really objective analysis. I also can't really afford to analyze each map fully, so your favorite map might get a paragraph. Sorry about that. Ultimately, I am not a seasoned Zombies player, nor do I consider myself a part of the community. This is a Zombies outsider's perspective on these maps that I arrived at entirely on my own by playing them multiple times each over the last couple of months. I'm sure you will all be completely civil in my comments. World at War, the genesis of the undead slaughtering mode, came with a tremendous amount of fanfare once players started to discover the mode itself. I remember forum posts, bus ride conversations, and Xbox Live parties where friends would speculate on glitches, Easter eggs, and strategies. Nuketown Toten, the first Zombies map, would establish design conventions that remain in the mode 13 years later. Doors remain similarly priced, the mystery box would keep its price and function, and the order of weapons would basically remain consistent on from this underground bunker to the universe-bending realm of Agartha. The maps had basically zero interest in world building or character development, and instead wished to capitalize upon themes and motifs prevalent in the campaign of World at War. The game up until this point was always fighting dreamy absurdity with grounded realism. It is a contrast that works for the game because of how it positions the player in relationship to war, always in the forefront, in the Hollywood dreamlike imagination of war, as if to encourage a healthy skepticism of what is occurring on screen at any time. It is a contrast that doesn't work for every player, or for every critic for that matter, juxtaposing the grittiness of the actions to the heroics of the moment. But it mostly works in World at War. It works in tandem with the stories told in the campaign because of how it positions the incoming horde as a very real consequence of the German army. It's why it works so well as a post-credits Easter egg. An arrival of undead German soldiers is not totally unbelievable within the fiction of the story told over the last 8 hours. Obviously, nobody could have known what would become of the zombies or their origins, but in 2008 it made total tonal sense as a secret ending to an already difficult to believe in video game. World at War, and this is true of Black Ops titles even more so, was never meant to be taken at purely literal face value. In terms of design, the map goes on to give a couple opportunities for player choice and clever play, but is, as you can all imagine, the most simple map on offer. Questions like whether you should open the mystery box door early for a weapon advantage or opening the stairs for a tactical advantage remain memorable staples of the map, but most of the joy here is in its tonal accomplishments. Nuketown Toten can really only be objectively ranked as completely serviceable, if a little dull, but subjectively ranked much higher given the fact that it is the genesis of the mode this video has been gushing about. This interpretation easily applies to the second map as well, Verruckt, which aims to access a horror element to its presentation that we won't really see again until Black Ops 3's map, Zetsubo no Shima. Verruckt is, I think, the second most successful zombies map on offer in World at War. Thematically, it establishes a clear goal of spookiness, a goal that is accomplished through audio design more than anything. If you were somehow brave enough to have no issues with playing the first map alone, then this one would test you more so than any other going forward. Verruckt exists, first and foremost, to place the player in a position of dread. Players know they will not be leaving the asylum alive, and so the developers take that into account with the design of the map. You will see this change as we get further into the series, where the maps that empower the player tend to take on more fantastical and absurdist elements, whereas the maps that are meant to be tonal pieces tend to take on much more dramatic levels of self-seriousness. For some reason, I think more about the developers and their intentions and design philosophy with these zombies maps than most games I play. There's something very authorial about zombies maps, as if you can see the decisions and conversations that would have been happening playing out in the map itself. I think Verruckt is a good example of this event in a couple of ways, the main being how it uses progression to combat against the feelings of dread. Let me explain. The map splits the players up in the beginning, placing them in two different rooms disconnected from each other until the power can be turned on. Turning the power on would obviously become a staple of the series going forward. With the level design quirk of starting separated, and then the addition of perk machines and better wall guns the further you get into the map, the design of the map encourages progression. That word, progression, is going to be one of the most important through lines of how we understand the level design of COD Zombies going forward. In each map, the designers tend to take advantage of a pretty consistent upward trajectory of player power, starting with basically nothing, a pistol and 500 points, and working oneself up to a super soldier. This trajectory is really the core addictive quality of the zombies experience, knowing that at any moment you are a double points or 200 points away from a significant power boost. Verruckt does well to establish this curve through its mechanics, starting you out with complete dread until you can connect with your squad again and begin powering up. Verruckt is a special map tonally, an interesting map mechanically, and a vanguard of popular series mechanics going forward. In my opinion, Verruckt is a great zombies map. Shinonuma wishes to apply some randomness to that mechanic of progression so as to, I think, increase opportunities for replayability and adaptability between each game of zombies. It isn't unfair for me to say that zombies can become a little boring after a while. While I am no zombies god, I have played every single map released, and let me tell you, some of them are boring. Shinonuma, despite introducing the randomness of the perk machine spawns, is absolutely boring. Many of you know, however, that this map is special insofar that it is, well, completely broken, only spawning in a completely manageable amount of zombies at a time, making high rounds on this map trivially easy. This is widely considered the easiest zombies map of all time, but most of my memories of it come down to disappointment. Shinonuma is a bad zombies map. However, this map did introduce characters that would be iconic figures in the franchise going forward. Tank, Takeo, Nikolai, and Richthofen, a cabal of racial stereotypes that, at this point, only existed for the flavor text and comic relief, but would go on to multiply, expand, deepen, and most importantly, genuinely emotionally connect with Zombies fans. Humble beginnings for these four, but here they are in all their embarrassing muck and mire. Some of you in my YouTube comments may be shocked to hear I am not really going to expand too much on how dirty Treyarch does characters like Takeo and Nikolai in their early iterations. Yes, it's pretty bad stereotyping. No, it's nothing unexpected. Call of Duty's cultural transgressions have always been a sort of scorched earth philosophy, making it hard to pin down on something like Takeo's speech when someone like Nikolai is a vodka-guzzling stereotype himself. These characters in their early iterations are unapologetic jokes, comic relief to contribute to the hokey indifference of the zombies fiction. There's no specificity to the racism, no analysis to be made about the message other than stupid joke is stupid for stupid's sake. That being said, it wouldn't be much longer before the fiction and its characters started getting a little more love. Love that can be found in the fourth and best map of the first game, Darice. This map does a lot of things right. A lot of things. It establishes long-term goals for the player outside of just survival. It introduces some mechanical nonlinearity in how you can choose the order of teleporters you wish to link. Most importantly, however, it changes the entire curve that we mentioned earlier. One of the main appeals to zombies can basically be condensed into one mechanic: Pack-a-Punch. To me, Pack-a-Punch is at the heart of the addictive zombies experience. It is the fulcrum in which the rest of the experience rests upon. I know it seems like a minor mechanic to insinuate that it is the most important mechanic, but I really feel this way. Pack-a-Punch is emblematic of the entire ethos of zombies, progression, and goals, a mechanical finish line that players aspire to. I just think it's brilliant. It is some real game design goodness, some clever thinking to address most issues with the zombies formula as it stood prior to Derice. Pack-a-Punch is why I think that Treyarch's designers here have somehow gone completely ignored when we talk about great game designers in pretentious games design circles. The carrot on the stick of powering up individual weapons into unique and interesting new weapons is so motivating for me as a zombie slayer. I needed to know all the different iterations of weapons. And let me tell you, when I found out you could Pack-a-Punch the starter pistol into the Mustang and Sally, my god, why, I thought, why would you ever hang on to that crappy weapon for so long? But suddenly, in that moment, possibilities erupted. What else could happen? Why wouldn't I at least try once to Pack-a-Punch each weapon? The replayability of the game skyrocketed for me, and the entire structure of decision-making going forward was changed. COD Zombies was no longer about aimless survival, but of a very specific objective. Derice excels in a lot of ways in terms of design, but its lasting legacy will always be the decision that acted as a turning point for COD Zombies as a mode. Pack-a-Punch as a mechanic took a mode from fun developer Easter egg to genuine franchise staple. Derice is a classic masterpiece of a zombies map. World at War in general is a good zombies game, and one I am happy to revisit often. It's a time capsule of the mode that is just not present in any of the games going forward, and the simplicity is oftentimes more charming than it is uninteresting. Anyone who has played the more recent zombie games knows just how out of control the map design and objectives have become. As fun as I had creating and upgrading the 4 staves on Origins, I would not blame anyone for having a serious preference toward the survival-driven focus of World at War Zombies. I will remember World at War Zombies more for its authorship and developer-added charm, as well as the game's tonal accomplishments. I can confidently say that the best of Treyarch's actual game design is still ahead of us. Which brings us to Black Ops 1, and more specifically, Kino der Toten. Now I know that COD Zombies has a long-running community, a community of decade-long fans who have calcified and debated certain opinions over that same decade. I know that Kino der Toten is a fan favorite. I also know one thing. Kino der Toten is as standard and average of a zombies map as you can really get. And for that reason alone, I don't love it much. So let me be very clear about this before we analyze it. Kino is a good zombies map. It is absolutely sufficient. In fact, Kino der Toten can act as a framework for basically understanding the map design philosophy of COD Zombies going forward. And while I personally don't like it for being so formulaic, the formula exists for a reason. It works. I've thought about this a lot, and I've arrived at this. COD Zombies map design basically follows a formula that resembles Morse code more than anything else. Dot, dash, dot, dash. The dots are what you would call points of interest. The dashes are what I will call kill zones, which are in no uncertain terms designed to kill you. Which, by the way, is no more clear than when you look at a map in Advanced Warfare Zombies, the dot dash dot design to its most unfortunately condensed version. Think about Kino der Toten and the way it funnels you between dots, its rooms, its points of interest. Narrow, funneled corridors that encourage moments of desperation, of being cornered between the devils you know and the recently spawned devils on the other side. I imagine if there were an available heat map of zombie players' deaths, you would see devastating amounts of failures in these dashes, in the metal staircases outside of the theater room, in the doorway next to Double Tap, in the tiny closets headed towards Speed Cola. Openness empowers players. Closedness kills them. So if we understand that traditional Treyarch map design, especially early on, follows this rule of sequentially opened and closed areas, then how do they connect to each other in a macro sense? Well, usually, but not always, in one of two ways, either in the form of a rectangle or in the form of a bicycle wheel. Now, I know this is getting a little abstract, but it is important to understand how each map differs from one another, and how I think, most importantly, how the maps who deviate from this structure succeed. Kino der Toten is undeniably in the rectangle map design box, along with maps like Verruckt, Origins, and Revelations, as well as others. The player starts at one point of the rectangle and can navigate its perimeters by choosing either left or right, usually with the middle point being some sort of powerful area, like the theater stage. Many maps choose to connect these areas through novel ideas like teleporters or ziplines, but the structure remains true. Crafting a map like this is as utilitarian as game design can be, plotting predestined paths for players to play around through a designed experience. This is why the dot-dash-dot formula is so effective. The design of the map forces you through dashes that are mechanical difficulty spikes set between the easier sections like on the stage. Kino is almost certainly the most obvious example of this, besides some egregious examples in Advanced Warfare. I tend to, maybe unfairly, think that this is uninspired design, at least when I compare it to designs that I think are masterful, like the vertically inspired labyrinths of Mob of the Dead or the heliocentric rotations of Shadows of Evil. When new game designers first try level design, oftentimes what occurs is a sprawling, flat series of sequential rooms. One after another, rooms enter in and out of each other on a flat plane. Now, I, of course, am no level designer, so I have no belief I could do better, but I do tend to prefer the levels that are less longitudinal and more latitudinal. Wait, did I get those right? I tend to like up and down, not left to right. Levels are designed this way because they work, and Kino works. But that's it for me, so Kino earns its serviceable rating from old Dave. And I have similar feelings toward the game's extra vanilla map, 5. I love the acting performances here and the unapologetic camp of its characters. Zombies does well to go goofy here, much like the stronger maps from Infinity Ward's Infinite Warfare Zombies mode. 5 is hilarious, frustrating, difficult, short-lived, and most importantly, goofy. I imagine it is not as liked by the fans as Kino der Toten, but in the event I launch some Black Ops 1 and have a choice between the two maps, I think nowadays I would pick 5. It is a much more concise, interesting, and to-the-point experience. With that, I think it gets put just ahead of Kino in the serviceable tier. I appreciate the ways in which Treyarch sticks to a willingness to be goofy, and I think that is an important hallmark of the series that I will be mentioning frequently throughout my map-by-map analysis. The maps I love tend to be the same maps that have characters outside of the normal crew, and I think that is no coincidence. Zombies is, after all, living on house money. It was never meant to exist in the way it does. It exists because of experimentation. Easter eggs and quest objectives are a significant part of the Zombies formula as we see it now, but it wasn't always that way. Up until this point, maps Easter eggs were basically fun activities to do on the side, with no real lore significance or crazy amount of preparation and work. For whatever reason, Ascension, the first DLC map of Black Ops 1, introduced the start of how we begin to understand COD Zombies Easter eggs going forward. This was the first map I installed my Black Ops 1 Reimagined mod on, and it helped me accomplish the Easter egg for this map. There are hilarious clips from my stream of me lamenting the fact that the Easter egg was so complicated and difficult. How would anyone know to do this? I questioned. Little did I know I was playing baby's first Easter egg. To be clear, Ascension is a fine map. The perk stealing monkeys are annoying, but I understand the design decision when you compare the map to 5 and Kino der Toten. Treyarch was clearly looking for ways to impede the player, as many players were discovering just how easily manipulated the undead horde was. Here's an interesting lens to view the rest of the maps from here on out. How does Treyarch disempower its players with fun? Let me explain. Each map does this better or worse than another. I will try and mention them from here on out, but examples of disempowerment that immediately come to mind are the item-stealing monkeys, the rotating excavator on Moon, George on Call of the Dead, the infection and EMP zombies on Exo Zombies, or the plethora of boss zombies that are found on the later maps. These mechanics have to walk a very thin line between being tedious and being too easy. Each map fails and succeeds with this problem in different ways. I think Ascension succeeds. Because I like Ascension. I think it is a great zombies map, with a simple map design that has memorable power positions, like the landing pad next to PhD Flopper. The next map would be an interesting departure from the thematics of the Zombies mode up until this point, choosing to have real Hollywood actors play the roles of the 4 playable characters. Call of the Dead would also star a hero of Zombies lore himself, George Romero. I'm just going to say it now, Call of the Dead is my favorite map in all of Black Ops 1, and might just be my second favorite map of all time. What a roller coaster of intersecting mechanics, interesting story, and deviating artistic perspective. I love playing this map. It is the ultimate addicting Zombies experience, insofar that if and when I die, I tend to always know what I could have done better and how to fix it. Call of the Dead rides a balance of difficulty and fun that the series is pretty much constantly arguing with itself on how to reach. I actually don't know how this map is received by the community. I think it is probably received well because, well, I think it's good. But in the event that it isn't, I think it's probably because this map, more so than many from this era of Zombies, required oneself to fail many times before the map made sense. I've probably played this map more times than any other, besides Origins, I guess, because it took so long for me to finally say, I got it. It wasn't until I was able to complete the Easter egg on my own 2 times that I thought I fully got the analytical experience I wanted from it. One of the best parts of its design is the placement of its weapons and perks, giving just the right space between upgrades and power. It also does the whole, there are 2 paths in the spawn room, choose wisely thing a lot better than any other map in the franchise. Most maps have a clear, better option, and oftentimes maps either put upgrades and power too close to one another, like in the case of the map Buried, or too far apart, like in the case of Transit. If it helps illustrate my point, I think 2 other great examples of this sort of perfect perk and power pacing can be found in the maps Origins and Shadows of Evil. Finally, I think this is when I started to kind of get addicted to going for Easter eggs. The quest on this map was so fun to me, so challenging and so unexpected. It was so unexpectedly sensical. I actually kind of knew what was going on because of how simple the requests were, and I don't know, I miss that, especially after playing through Black Ops 4. Call of the Dead earns a masterful rating from Old Dave. Okay, man, this video is getting kind of long. I'm going to probably speed some of these up. Lightning round. Shangri-La carries forward the series of great Easter eggs in Black Ops 1 with another really interesting, although pretty frustrating, self-contained story. I like this map a lot, but find its corridors and map design genuinely dull. What with its grid-like outdoors and cavernous indoors, basically resulting in play happening in rectangle corridors for a good portion of the map. I mentioned earlier how good the Wonder Weapon is here, and it's just true. It is the ultimate fun wonder weapon. Funder weapon. Oh my god. I'm going to go ahead and say Shang is a good COD Zombies map. I don't really like Moon a whole lot, though. I know. I get the feeling this is going to be controversial, but at the same time, I find a lot of the things I find interesting about this map have little to do with the map design itself, or the rhythms of a normal COD Zombies game. Remember when we talked about how a good Zombies map is a map that walks the difficult line of cleverly disempowering a player in a fun way? That oscillation between taking down the player and allowing the player to lift themselves back out is at the core of the addictive properties of the game. I often think Moon takes us a little too far into the realm of tedium, though. But that's just for me. That's my experience. This is what I was trying to get at originally. The Zombies mean something different to everyone else. For me, I find the story significance, the Easter egg, and the overall production value of this map certainly interesting and unique amongst the maps until this point, but ultimately my Zombies experience is an experience of about 15 to 25 rounds of mistake making, survival, and really the bare minimum of what you can accomplish in a game. Going for the Easter egg on this map, however, I will say was my first holy crap moment of making this video. I certainly knew that COD Zombies got much more insane with its set pieces and storyline, but seeing it all happen one step at a time was an instantly unique experience. In any other video game context, the hilariously janky arrival of a young girl with a teddy bear floating above the pyramid would be considered so amateurish, poorly animated, But for zombies, it was a revelation. It was so exciting for me to finally see the girl they've mentioned so much, and it blew my mind that the developers at Treyarch put in so much work for this moment that really wouldn't be accessible to most players. So in that sense, I am left a little conflicted with Moon, even still after making this video. I'm going to go ahead and put it in good, but I wouldn't argue with anyone if they had it higher. And as far as not arguing with people based on their preferences, I definitely would not argue with anyone who has Black Ops 1 as the best COD Zombies game of all time. I think my choice will actually surprise some, and it isn't this game, but I do think this may be the most consistently great COD Zombies game of the bunch. From here on out, both narratively and mechanically, but also from a meta perspective of COD Zombies as an idea, there is no going back. After Black Ops 1, after the destruction of Earth, little would remain the same about how we view a single match of zombies. Going forward, Zombies was to be held up right next to campaign and multiplayer, a franchise staple to be taken seriously amongst its peers, to be considered not just a map, but a mode. What happened, of course, was an uncharacteristic failure of Treyarch to deliver on a new experience they so desperately wanted. Transit is, in no uncertain terms, a bad COD Zombies map. The common mythology around Transit is that it was too ambitious for its time, that it tried to be something that the 7th generation of consoles just couldn't handle. It makes me wonder then, how is a map like Origins even possible? I mean, look at this. It is shocking to me that Transit came out in the same game as maps like Origins or Mob of the Dead, and I am not even referring to the level of quality, but even just artistically, visually, and functionally. Mob of the Dead might as well have come out in a different console generation than Transit. Let's not be confused, because I know already that Transit is considered bad by the community's consensus. Even I cannot come up with some contrarian take on Transit to spin it as a good addition to the Zombies canon. Transit is frustrating, it's poorly optimized, uninteresting, and lacks any sort of clever design that helps wash down the boring moment-to-moment gameplay. And that's kind of a shame, really, right? As many of you know, this map was really a failure of a wider vision of what Zombies was supposed to be. I would say, though, that there is a positive spin. I can do this. If there is one, it would be that the reaction to Transit was a reaction clamoring for less experimentation, as if the world was screaming, "Look, Treyarch, you have something here. Don't mess with it." And after Transit, Treyarch knew what to do. Make good experiences in contained maps that follow the formula that got them there in the first place. What Treyarch will do for the next, 10 maps is basically the best stretch of maps you can find in the series, in my opinion. Starting with Die Rise, which is honestly just good. I've always liked this map because of how different it is, and especially the mechanic of the falling elevator in the spawn room leading to one of two of the buildings. I think this map is cleverly designed with a wonder weapon that falls into my desired category of fun over function. I don't have much more to say because we're already so high on time, but this map is good. I like it a lot. Oh my god, I forgot Nuketown Zombies was a map. Nuketown Zombies it's not very good. It's alright. The random perk spawns are bad and should not return in the series going forward. Bad map, but leaning towards serviceable. Mob of the Dead is, in no uncertain terms, the best Zombies map in the franchise. Yeah. Its ability to inspire feelings of despondency and dread through its atmosphere is honestly inspiring when you compare it to the fact that the gameplay gives you opportunities to break through that dread and power through with interesting mechanical ideas. The story and the characters on display here are perfect matches to the thematic image being created, and the evergreen tale of escape from inescapable means pairs just perfectly with the rhythms of Zombies gameplay. To me, this is the culmination of the mechanical and narrative lessons the franchise has been learning to this point, finally understanding that the wheel of Zombies gameplay shouldn't be reinvented, but celebrated and emphasized. The story does this by going from dread to possibility. The gameplay does it by going from aimlessness to mastery, and the thematics do this by going from horror to power. Progression, remember a word we mentioned many times before, might just be at its best on this map. progression of its characters, of the scope of the map, of your power, and specifically of your own knowledge of the map's secrets. Learning this map over time was one of my best memories of this entire video. This map was so enjoyable because of how achievable it was, and how believable it was that my characters were feeling the same types of feelings alongside my experience. And that's my lasting impression of COD Zombies as a mode. When the story and its characters reach a harmony with the experience of myself as a player in the game. In the interest of time, we're going to have to move on, but I love Mob of the Dead, and it takes this top spot on my tier list at Masterful. Let's move on to the next map real quick, Buried. It's pretty good, but ultimately boring to me and easier than most. I don't revisit this map much when I'm playing through it, but I think it's still good in moderation. Buried is a low good map. And finally, I definitely think I could make an entire video about the next map, Origins. It is such an obvious, whiplash-inducing, fast enlargement of what we understand as the COD zombie structure. Everything you knew about what a match of zombies could entail really changed after this map's release. And for better or for worse, the series doesn't really ever recover from the release of Origins. I have insanely mixed feelings about this map, because I really do see it as an achievement, and probably the second best zombies map of the bunch. But my god, is it sobering when I look at it as an indelible turning point in the franchise. I've played Origins more than any other map, by a large margin. I spent so long going for this Easter egg. I spent 2 hours straight on the step where you have to throw the airstrike thingy in the hole. I re-rolled the beginning of this map so many times I have nightmares about brains and jars, shovels, souls, and MP40s. Origins is so good. So good. But I can't help but feel like nothing was ever the same after this map. Narratively, this is also when things begin to truly go off the rails, as it introduces a lot of the timey-wimey stuff into the front of the storyline of Zombies. Anything after this basically is beyond me, truthfully, and I just try to follow along as best as I can. In terms of design, I think Origins is basically near perfect. It is optimal, understandable, and the disempowering mechanics we've mentioned so often actually do ride the line of fun challenge pretty effectively. The progression curve of a game of Origins is probably as dramatic as any map in the franchise, as by far the hardest part of a game of Origins is the first 30 minutes or so. If you can get past that much, do airstrike challenges, get staves and perks, you are a genuine unstoppable force of nature. And that is precisely what makes Origins so addicting as a concept. If you can just break out of your mortal shell, you will always have a chance in a game of Origins to blow the doors off reality and become unstoppable. It's hard, but rewarding. And that is why I basically played Origins exclusively for a week straight. And ultimately, Origins is a masterful map, and I do love it. But you have to understand that it also represents a sea change in the philosophy and objectives of COD Zombies going forward, toward narrative science fiction experiences that place the who, what, when, where, and why over the foundational mechanics that established the mode to this point. You may or may not like it, but Call of Duty Zombies after Origins had arrived. It is a mode to be respected amongst its single-player and multiplayer peers. It ties a real bow on what is, in fact, my favorite COD Zombies game, and the one I will revisit most after making this video. Before we will see the real results of that sea change, though, we should first briefly stop by Sledgehammer and look at Exo Zombies. I'm going to be real with you, Exo Zombies was the least amount of fun I had while recording this video, and I had to record basically every day over the course of around 90 days. I won't stay long, but Exo Zombies tends to encourage the things I like the least of the Zombies experience, specifically the uninspired map design that runs the dot structure into the ground. A good example of how opposite Exo Zombies is to my preferences is the way they handle Pack-a-Punch, choosing to make it more incremental and less expensive, rather than a sudden power boost all at once. Now, of course, I understand the philosophy behind this, giving short bursts of power that substantiate over time into significant increases. But just like I mentioned before, I think the climax of Pack-a-Punch is instrumental to its significance in the franchise. For a lot of players, Pack-a-Punch is the quest. Pack-a-Punch is the final boss. Everything after that is just survival and fun. And to take that away from the player is to never give them the catharsis of overcoming the dread of the lowly beginnings of a zombies game. Overall, however, Exo Zombies places tedium on far too high of a pedestal, completely missing the point of how carefully Treyarch attempts to balance empowerment versus disempowerment. Exo Zombies is constantly trying to disempower you, admittedly because of the exosuit's power, but the point still remains. Exo Zombies developers start you just like the Treyarch developers do, with some points and a pistol. They ask you to go open doors and have some fun, just like Treyarch. I opened every door in Advanced Warfare, did every Easter egg. I'm still looking for the fun. Oh, okay. I forgot I have to put them on the tier list. Outbreak is okay. Best of the bunch, probably. Infection is honestly god-awful. Carrier is awful. Descent is pretty bad. Are we sure that Advanced Warfare didn't come up with the Marauder fight before Doom Eternal came up with the Marauder fight, by the way? Now let's talk Black Ops 3, and more specifically, Shadows of Evil. Now I think Shadows of Evil is really good, like one of the best maps in the franchise. Mob of the Dead-esque good. So let's just get that out of the way now. I had so much gosh darn fun playing this map over and over again, and the improvements to Black Ops 3's engine and mechanics make the experience just equally fun every time you play. I noticed that Black Ops 3 is by far the most replayable of the Zombies games, giving you multiple routes and quests to do per map, loads of opportunities for destruction, and enough interesting boss zombies and scenarios to space out situations enough that the game doesn't become dull. I love Black Ops 3 Zombies, and I love Shadows of Evil the most. If you haven't pieced this together yet, I love when COD Zombies goes outside the traditional 4 characters to take an opportunity to expand a side story that exists just in the world of that map exclusively. Mob of the Dead being the obvious example. Take me into a world that the developers get to have that same fun in, where they get to go outside their comfort zone and experiment, just like they did when they created the mode in the first place. That's what I love, and that's what I think Shadows does well. Because Shadows isn't perfect. It often confuses complexity with interesting content, and it finds itself running out of ideas quickly if you aren't interested in doing the Easter egg quest. What it does well, however, is change up the dot-dash-dot map formula in favor of a spoked wheel formula, creating maybe the most powerful wonder weapon in the franchise, and provides interesting scenarios through its Easter egg quest, a quest that brought me many hours of joy trying to accomplish. I often wonder, with the craziness of the Easter eggs on these maps, how in the ever-loving world was anyone able to figure this kind of thing out? Okay, I have this weird sort of intrusive thought that occurs to me when I play zombies, so just bear with me as you get a bit of a unfiltered look into my mind when I've been gaming for a long time. Imagine this scenario. I am playing COD for the first time ever, before I knew anything about Black Ops Zombies, Call of Duty, anything. I am on a desert island, and Treyarch is holding me against my will in a bunker, with a TV and a console. They are feeding me just enough through a tube for me to survive. Through hushed voices they tell me, "Finish the Easter egg we've created on Shadows of Evil, and we will let you go." I am not certain I would ever see my family again. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could figure it out. Genuinely, if I played 21 hours a day. The sheer amount of guesswork that must go into finding these quests must be hilarious to watch. Now, I haven't seen it, but I can guess that there are hours upon hours of holding F on plants, shooting weapons at bricks or planks of wood, throwing grenades in curious places, spinning around 3 times, looking up then down, and firing your gun in the air to the tune of Happy Birthday. Shout out to the folks that managed to figure this stuff out. A lot of my Zombies experience had me alt-tabbing to a guide every 5 minutes. Now, all of this being said, I love Shadows of Evil's Easter egg, and I love its characters and map design. It is a masterpiece, in my opinion, and remains the most enjoyably replayable map of the bunch in this game in particular. And Der Eisendrache is another excellent map, one that builds upon a timeless structure of Zombies experience that you can basically find all the way back on a map like Call of the Dead. Concise areas that layer upon themselves in interesting ways, giving lots of map real estate in a relatively small land area. Der Eisendrache's Easter egg is less fun for me, but pulls from a self-referential history of COD Zombies lore that made the experience kinda wholesome and memorable. We see this a little bit in Zetsubo no Shima as well, but instead of narratively, we see it thematically and artistically. Zetsubo is a good map insofar that it positions the player in the same relationship to dread that we saw all the way back in a map like Verruckt. Horror, dread, hopelessness, fear, it all makes a return in this map, and for that I appreciate it, besides it not being one of my favorites mechanically. Zetsubo is good, not excellent, but a very good zombies map. Gorod Krovi, my least favorite map in Black Ops 3, unfortunately finds itself in a weird middle ground of being a little too much in a little too many places. It's thematically opposite of the previous map, with its dragons and mech warriors, but it also is just a bit too heavy on the obsessively convoluted zombies mechanics that so many players have had such issues with up until this point. It is maps like Gorod Krovi and generally Zetsubo and definitely Revelations that I find myself longing for the simplicity of the older games like Black Ops 1. Two things can be true at once. Black Ops 3 can be a very good zombies title, maybe even the best, but it can also be far too insistent on its own self, insistent on cultivating replayability through complexity, and insistent on explaining every gosh darn piece of fiction that someone jokingly put into a game 10 years ago. Take Nikolai's vodka, for example. What was once a stereotype must now be an explained thing. Everything in zombies has to be a thing. It has to have meaning, has to exist meaningfully in a wider context. Nothing can just be a mystery anymore. COD Zombies maps over time got so concerned with the who's and the what's and the wins, it lost sight of the why, the reason the mode was interesting in the first place. Its insistence on explaining itself devalues and amateurizes an otherwise perfectly utilitarian example of just enough interactive storytelling. This is especially true of Gorod Krovi and Revelations, maps I just don't see myself being interested in revisiting. I will give Gorod Krovi a low serviceable rating, but remember, that's my opinion. It is becoming clear that at this point in Black Ops 3, Zombies is teetering on a fulcrum of identity that it just doesn't know how to resolve. Do you wrap up this story and, more importantly, this era, or do you continue to ram the same cycles into the ground forever? We will find that as the Zombies maps go forward, the games become more self-referential and desiring of a past self. This, of course, ultimately culminates in Revelations. However, there's a consistent through line of self-acknowledgement before and after Revelations that can either be charming or distracting, depending on your cynicism. In Revelations, it just isn't a good map in my opinion. I find it dull and not very replayable, but more importantly, I find it sad in a meta sense. I find it sad that this was the conclusion I received after investing so much time and energy into these stories and Easter eggs. And I find it sad that, above all, I felt the mode took a step back with the release of this map. The answer to that question from earlier, will we wrap up this story and more importantly this era, or do you continue to ram the same cycles into the ground forever? The answer was definitive. We continue with what works, despite its rust and repetition. I don't like Revelations because it is a linear dot-dash-dot structure that treads upon old ground and manages to somehow shrink in size every time I play it, to the point I find myself fighting in the same places every time I play the map. That is an issue I neglected to mention in Zombies in general, but it's really a problem especially so here. What I do think is special though, and not even good, just special, is the ways in which Revelations ties together a decade's worth of Easter egg progression. There is something so addicting and alluring about the Easter egg hunts in Zombies, and I think I've begun to pin down exactly why they work for so many people, and how they managed to enrapture the mode in such a way that it became integral to the experience. In short, it feels like you are doing something wrong. It feels like you are breaking the game, that you are somewhere you are not supposed to be. It is, for me at least, a mechanical taboo. Of course, the brilliant irony of this feeling of mischief is the secrecy that the developers designed it to feel this way. The designers of the maps have made it so they've convinced my subconscious that I am in control, that I am getting underneath the skin of the traditional Zombies experience and unearthing something hidden beneath. it really is amazing, and it is a shame so few have actually done them. But as my time with this video nears a close, I think I will always remember the production of this video as the Easter egg months. That's what drove me through these maps. That's what made me say, these are so ridiculous, so incomprehensibly dumb, so anti-game design. It's awesome! I gotta make a video. And so for that, Revelations is kind of a neat little reminder of just how absurd these games have gotten with their quests. And it kind of makes me giggle to play through Revelations, then remember how complicated I thought the Easter egg on Ascension was. I thought it was a joke that people actually did these for fun when I played Ascension for the first time. I thought there was no way they could get more complicated. They did, and I'm glad for it. I think that Revelations is ultimately serviceable, though, in the end. It's nearing good, but it gets the job done. That's it. Revelations does remind me, though, when I was teaching English, I used to ban my students from starting essays with a definition. I know, harsh maybe, but a personal pet peeve. Webster's English Dictionary says family means blah blah blah. In The Grapes of Wrath, this has never been more true. Despite this prejudice toward uninspired openings, here I go using a definition in my essay. Webster's English Dictionary defines revelation as a surprising and previously unknown fact, especially one that is made known in a dramatic way. In Call of Duty Black Ops 3's zombie map Revelations, this has never been more fake and wrong and further from the truth. Nothing about Revelations is in fact a revelation. It is the same old, same old. Oh yeah, Zombies Chronicles, that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that a lot. I don't have a lot to say about Infinite Warfare Zombies or World War II Zombies, partly because they take most of the mechanical rhythms from Treyarch and just add thematic spins to them. I do think both are very good. IW Zombies chooses to do what Treyarch really dances around often, which is fully commit to a wacky understanding of the undead and put the gameplay rhythm first over any sort of desperate attempts at making logical sense of the fiction. It uses a simple framing device that gets players right into the action without sacrificing character development. I think the first map here is excellent. It delivers on an artistic vision with absolute confidence, and it most importantly insists upon giving the player opportunities to have fun without an intimate knowledge of the map. I had fun the first time I played this map through. I can't say that about every Treyarch map. The second map starts a slow decline in quality throughout the game's offering, but it's still pretty good. I especially loved how heavily they leaned into the map's theme here. The third map isn't great though, and the fourth is worse. The final one, a throwback to the aliens from COD Ghost's Extinction mode, might as well have not been included. It's bad. I tend to like COD World War II Zombies a bit more, but I really do like both. One of the things I noticed while playing these games that weren't the Treyarch games is just how incapable they are at reaching the high highs of some of the Treyarch maps. Even World War II's best map, the first one, finds itself just missing the mark of excellent with some boring late game activities and not many legs for replayability. I do appreciate their willingness to simplify the Easter eggs though. In the interest of staying consistent with my past analysis though, I have to mention how inconsistent the tone here is in World War II Zombies. It is quite obvious that what they're going for, a revival of the original themes of Nuketown and Toten, including even the flags, iconography, and level design. It is no mistake then that the first map you play is basically a two-story building. The problem with this is its execution, with corny jump scares and a clearly Dead Space-inspired body horror that doesn't fit well with the fact that the zombies in World War II might just be the least threatening of all the games. Because ultimately World War II Zombies sets off with an artistic vision that it actually truly reaches, most of the time. The problem is its sights were set so low to the ground, so realistically, that by reaching its goal it only reaches great, not masterful. Again, I like World War II Zombies. I just don't love it like I did my time with Treyarch. Okay, tier list, right. The Final Reich is great. The Darkest Shore is good. The Shadowed Throne is bad. And the Frozen Dawn is pretty good. Oh, and I kind of liked the shorter challenge mode, the Forbidden Path or whatever. And to be honest, someone in my stream said that people hate it. I thought it was kind of neat, actually. I liked it. Okay, let's finally talk about Black Ops 4. We are almost done. I'm going to be honest, I don't have much to say about Black Ops 4. It is far and away my least favorite zombies game, besides Exo Zombies, I guess. I've been thinking about this a lot, actually, why Black Ops 4 didn't work for me. For the longest time, I was so sure that it was because I had played so much zombies up until this point, that it was my fault as a critic for taking on this wide of a project. Of course I don't like it, I would say. I've killed tens of thousands of zombies over the past month. But I actually don't think that's it. I do think Black Ops 4 Zombies isn't good, and I don't think it's a me problem. I think I've been able to track down specifically why the more recent Zombies maps have failed to capture people the same way, and why so many of its long-term fans have abandoned the mode. It comes down to a mechanical and cognitive dissonance that has seeped into every game of zombies I play. Two things, again, can exist at the same time. The first is this. The core gameplay has become too samey and dull, so I desire structure and challenge to push me forward. The second is, unfortunately, paradoxical. The structure and challenges come in the form of Easter egg quests, that of which have become almost unbearably tedious and difficult. Therefore, if I want zombies, I have to choose between tedium and boredom, casual and hardcore, 25 minutes or 2.5 hours. That's not a great dichotomy. It's not a great recipe. The extremes of the zombies community have come to a screeching connection in Black Ops 4, and it just wasn't sustainable anymore. The cup has officially runneth over in terms of what a zombies map can accomplish, and to continue trying is to expand the idea of what zombies is into a futile abomination of what we once appreciated. Black Ops 4 feels artificial in its presentation, its guns fire with plastic-like ubiquity, and its mechanics feel a step backward from the multiplayer-focused mechanics of Black Ops 3. A change in perks ended up being a change unnecessary and bloated. Black Ops 4 wishes to solve problems that didn't exist and ignores problems that are baked into the same experiences they are so desperate to rehabilitate. I've noticed a worrying trend with Treyarch post, Der Eisendrache, and it's basically that they've been searching for something they passed by already. Black Ops 4 is a game of trying over and over again, differently each time. Trying new characters, maybe that will work. Okay, that didn't work. Let's go back to the original characters. Okay, well, not like that. Let's remaster fan favorite maps then. Well, even the last map, the map that ends the story I've spent so long learning, is a remaster of basically one of my favorite maps. And I didn't like it that much. I don't know, it really is kind of a sobering end to the 5-game story. Because ultimately, Black Ops 4 Zombies is treading water, unable to find its own original footing. I'm going to blow through these, but just know much of what I don't say here is far more revealing of my disappointment. Voyage of Despair? Bad. 9? Serviceable? Blood of the Dead is serviceable, I guess. Classified? Serviceable. Dead of the Night is honestly kind of good. Ancient Evil is pretty good. I had the most fun with Ancient Evil. And Tag der Toten, it's just serviceable. But can I be honest though, after writing all of this, the video that just got a little too long, I don't know if I like COD Zombies anymore. Let me rephrase that. I don't know if I want to play COD Zombies anymore. I still love it. I loved my time, but I think somehow I'm done. I'm good, you know? It is thoroughly, cleanly out of my system. If I never have to fill up a soul box again with dead zombies, it will be too soon. And how do I know this for sure? Because I played Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War Zombies mode and felt nothing. I could even tell that it was good, it was well designed, that it was effective. And I have absolutely zero interest. Want to know something even further honest? I don't think that's so bad. Zombies is all about cycles, about breaking perpetual loops. To have some finality on my experience with zombies is a really refreshing feeling. I'm done. I won't be playing anymore. Thanks for the memories. Hey everyone, it's David. Thank you for watching. I usually like to end my videos with a sort of unscripted hello to everyone. This is actually some gameplay of the Black Ops Cold War version of Dead Ops Arcade, I think is what it's called. I never covered this in the video. It didn't really make sense to, but it's neat, I guess. It's nostalgic and fun. I played it once or twice on each game. Another thing I didn't really cover in the video that maybe some people have issue with is modded content in the series, specifically on Black Ops 3 and World at War. I played a good deal of modded maps when I made the original Call of Duty video, but I didn't really play them for this map because a lot of the thrust of what I was saying about these games ended up being very meta. It ended up being very much about how the series evolved over time, about Treyarch's authorship and development of these games over a long period of time. And it wouldn't really make sense within that framework of analysis to talk about, what some guy in Athens, Georgia made a custom map. That isn't to devalue the custom maps. They're really cool. I'm sure some people would say that they would be just as good as some of the vanilla maps. I'm just saying it didn't really fit into what I was trying to accomplish, from an analytical standpoint. That being said, they're great. They're fun. I really like them, especially on Black Ops 3. Finally, one more thing that immediately comes to mind that's kind of relevant to what we were just saying about that I didn't really cover was the author. We talk about authorship, but there's actually with Black Ops Zombies a very specific case of authorship that I never mentioned in the series, in the video, which is like this whole Jimmy Zielinski, and I honestly can't even remember the other guy's name. Like, essentially there were two dudes that made most of the Zombies maps, like creatively, director wise. They obviously didn't make them themselves. And as far as I'm concerned, from what I gleaned from some research, is just that they have very different styles of development. Like it's very obvious what a Jimmy Zielinski map is. It's very obvious what, this other person's map is. And let me just Google it. Right, Jason Blundell. How could I forget? Okay. Right, and as far as I'm concerned, they both left. I don't really remember, but the point is that there's like a perspective that you can take on looking at Zombies maps, which is this very like business oriented. Oh, Jimmy made this, Blundell made this. And that kind of thing doesn't really interest me all that much as like a content creator, as a writer. I think it gets a little too close to author worship and just like a little too personal and autobiographical, I guess. So I didn't include anything about that, but you may have already written a comment explaining this to me and haven't made it to this point. Now you're going back to delete it. I don't know. Anyway, I just want to give a quick update on the channel and just say thank you. And we hit 10,000 subscribers in the time between these videos. Things are looking really good. I really enjoy making these videos. They're just hard and they take a long time. I got a new job. There's like real life stuff, just like everyone does. And, I just appreciate having a community and people that like video essays. They're not too specific about, do this, do that. Like someone like Matthew Matosis can go a year and a half without uploading a video and everyone's just happy that he uploaded one, right? So thank you. This is a really great little niche community on YouTube, and I'm just really, really thankful. I'd love it if you'd come talk to me in the Discord. We have a David OZ Discord, and obviously I'm of small enough caliber that like you can just put whatever you want and I'll talk to you, and we have tons of great conversations there. And I stream on Twitch. I'd love to see you there. It's a good way to support me if you're not too interested in doing the Patreon. You can do a Twitch Prime sub. You can just come and watch and hang out. It's a really, really good way to just sort of like give that extra little push of support if you like this video. I like this video. I think it's okay. I'm a little, I kind of have the anxiety poops about it, because I'm like, do I like this video? I can't tell. So
it's tough making these long videos. They take a lot of work, and if you're not super thrilled with them, it's kind of demoralizing. So let me know what you think. It was a little bit different. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. But yeah, otherwise, I will see you all in the next video. Thank you for listening to me ramble. Love you guys. It's awesome to be here, and I'll see you all in the next video. Don't know what it is yet. Bye.